And on this video, we're going to be going over the state of the Baltimore Orioles. Let's get into it. What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast on the Laracuente Ledger Network. And as I said in the open, on this video, we will be discussing the state of the Baltimore Orioles. We've gone through a few teams here on the channel already this year on the states of category. But we will continue here with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, when you look at the Orioles, just kind of some opening thoughts here. This is a team that is likely going to be going through a rebuilding phase that may stretch out for a few seasons. However, there are a few things that can be held on to as far as hope for this franchise. So let's get into everything that they've done and where they are on the state of the Baltimore Orioles. So first things first, we have to look at the offseason signing of Freddie Galvez. To me, this was a kind of must-do move because of the fact that they would trade away Jose Iglesias to the Los Angeles Angels early on in the offseason. So bringing in another solid defensive-minded shortstop was going to be a huge priority because the Orioles are going to need to be able to catch the ball on the field and not continue to lose games because of poor defensive play. So bringing in a guy like Freddie Galvez, something that we already covered here on the Laracuente Ledger Network. I will leave links to that video down in the show notes below, as well as up in the YouTube card. So bringing Freddie Galvez in, to me, is a good move for the Baltimore Orioles because it gives them a solid piece defensively, one of the main solid pieces that they have in terms of a defensive player in 2021. But it also gives them an opportunity, because it is a one-year deal, that if a contending team is in need of a backup shortstop, backup middle infielder type who has a better defensive glove than what they currently possess, Freddie Galvez is a huge trade asset in that regard. So I think this was a solid move by the Baltimore Orioles to bring in a guy like Freddie Galvez. Now, as we continue on, I want to make sure that you know that we have a corresponding article on LaracuenteLedger.com, which links are down below in the show notes. So make sure you head over to LaracuenteLedger.com and check out our article. Now, as we continue on, one of the minor league deals that kind of stood out to me for the Baltimore Orioles was the signing of Felix Hernandez. To me, this was a very interesting move, as we would see Hernandez take a same kind of situation, a minor league deal with an invite to spring training with the Atlanta Braves in 2020, prior to opting out of the season. Now, here we are in 2021, finding ourselves in a very similar situation with Hernandez and the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Orioles rotation, as we will get into in just a moment, has a place in it for King Felix. Is he the same pitcher as he once was, the dominant Cy Young Award winning pitcher? No. But is he still going to be a super valuable asset to a rebuilding team? Without question, he will be a valuable asset as long as he remains healthy and can take the ball every 5 days for the O's. So I just previously mentioned it, so let's get into the state of the Baltimore Orioles rotation. When you look at what this rotation is going to be, there's going to be a lot of battle at the back end of the rotation trying to figure out who has earned those spots. Now, we likely believe that the Orioles will have John Means, Dean Kramer, and Keegan Aiken as a part of the front half of this rotation for the O's. Outside of those three starters, there's going to be a lot of potential availability in terms of the starting rotation. Now, I've made mention of this on previous videos, but I do believe that there's likely going to be 6-man rotation going into the 2021 campaign, as we would see a shortened 2020 campaign. So not placing pitchers in a position where they could potentially be hurt and injured because of throwing more innings than they should have in building back up to a respectable number is likely going to find the Orioles with quite a few arms taking starts for them in 2021. Again, one of which I do believe will be Felix Hernandez. I think that King Felix will find himself as a member of the Baltimore Orioles rotation in 2021, and I think that he will have a bounce back year for the O's. I don't think that he's going to get back to the form we once saw him in as a Cy Young Award winner. However, I do think that he's going to be a valuable 4th, 5th type starter in that rotation. He's going to be a guy who's going to have an ERA probably in the mid 4s to low 5s, but he's going to be able to keep the O's relatively close in games. And I think that the offense for the O's is going to be able to do a little bit more than what people expect. Now let's get into the state of the bullpen for the Baltimore Orioles. Now here, much like the back end of the rotation, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for young pitchers to kind of come up, make their stand, make their claim as a member of the major league roster. There are no completely certified names to me coming out of the Orioles bullpen in 2021. So I think there's going to be a lot of open competition in spring training to see what the Orioles have going forward in 2021 and beyond. I think that there's going to be a lot of young guys who are going to get opportunities in 2021 for Baltimore, and it's going to be a very good thing for the organization as they're going to be able to truly evaluate what they have in their own system before heading back up the win curve and going after free agents and key trades. So I think this is going to be a very interesting year for Baltimore Orioles fans because there's going to be a lot of guys that you've heard names mentioned in the past of top prospects, players of that nature, who are going to finally get their opportunity because there's going to be a lot of open spaces on the roster for the Baltimore Orioles. As we get into the state of the defense for the Baltimore Orioles, once again we bring up Freddie Galvez. This is going to be, to me, the best defender on the Baltimore Orioles, and by a country mile. When you look at what the rest of the team is going to be able to feature, there is going to be serious questions as to how many defensive runs will they give up in 2021? How many games will the Orioles cost themselves defensively in 2021? That's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on to see just how big that number gets. To me, the defense on this team is going to be a huge question mark, as is basically everything else on this rebuilding Orioles team. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how this team progresses and how they kind of grow in their abilities and in their talent levels in 2021. Now let's jump into the state of the offense for the Baltimore Orioles, as this is where I think will be the best asset for the Orioles. When you look at some of the players that they have on the roster, i.e. a player like Trey Mancini, who is coming back from his own real-life health scare and is going to be basically implanted at first base, is kind of what we've heard going on through the rumor mill, through the grapevine, that Mancini will be back at first base. This likely moves Chris Davis over to the DH spot. And while many people have kind of written off what Chris Davis can do, I think that he can get back to being a somewhat respectable player if he takes off some of that pressure from himself. We know that the Orioles would give him a massive contract just a few years ago, which would lead to them having to trade Manny Machado instead of giving that money to Manny. But when you look at what he could be a solid second half of the lineup type player for the O's. When you look at what Trey Mancini can provide, to me, this is going to be the base of their offense. This is going to be the guy they build that lineup around. You also have a guy who, to me, is very underrated in Anthony Santander, who is going to be able to help Mancini and kind of protect Mancini in that lineup. Outside of these two guys, there's going to be, again, a plethora of opportunities in the Baltimore Orioles lineup. There are names that we've kind of heard over the past couple of seasons, guys like Austin Hayes, DJ Stewart, Ryan Mountcastle, and the newly acquired Jimani Jones, who was once a top prospect in the Angels organization. Jones was acquired for Alex Cobb in a deal just a few days ago. I will leave links to our coverage about the Los Angeles Angels and their acquisition of Alex Cobb down in the show notes below. So as we get into the closing thoughts here on the Baltimore Orioles, once again, this is going to be a year of opportunity, a year for evaluation for the Baltimore Orioles. There's going to be also a lot of losses, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Orioles front office kind of handles the expectations of a very big loss campaign in terms of bringing fans to the stadium. What things will they implement to try to bring fans out to support this team? And more than likely, it's going to be based and built upon young players in their organization coming up and getting an opportunity. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below about the Baltimore Orioles. Where do you see them falling in terms of the American League? How long do you think this rebuild is going to take them to get back to a level where they're competing for a postseason spot? I want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, and we will discuss it further. And if you haven't already done so, do me a favor, hit that like button down below, as well as the subscribe and the bell to stay notified. It does a huge service for us and allows us to continue progressing up the YouTube algorithm when you guys do those things there. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time out to join me here as we discussed the state of the Baltimore Orioles. I will catch you guys when the latest news, notes, or my personal thoughts, theories, and opinions have to be dropped about the game of Major League Baseball. Peace.